Thanks for staying with us. I'm Eric Bowling in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, according to a recent investigation by a Houston TV station, thousands of illegal aliens who were supposed to be deported last year have disappeared from the Fed's radar.
When it comes to those ordered removed from the U.S., many can't be found. Of the more than 4,100 families released on their own recognizance and who've been ordered removed from the country, 96% were done in absentia. That means they didn't show up for court, and federal officials will have to find them. Of the more than 1,600 unaccompanied children ordered removed from the U.S., 92% were done in absentia. When it comes to the thousands of pending cases, federal officials say it could take several months to possibly years for all of these cases to be decided.
So how could this happen, and why is our system working so poorly? Joining me now from Washington to sort it all out is Stein, president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and from Boynton Beach, Florida, Jessica Ehrlich, a Democratic strategist. Jessica, okay, so we've heard about the 68,541 unaccompanied minors that have come across our southern border. Guess what? Houston TV station says maybe up to 90%. Others say maybe up to 40 or 45% of them just don't show up for their court dates. We predicted this, did we not? This is absolutely, we saw this coming.
Yeah, and it's really a tragedy because, the system is just, the caseload is overwhelming for all of our judges who are trying to have these hearings. We were arguing before about, whether we could have that sort of fancy hotel down in Texas purchased so we could actually have a detention center to hold people. And we still have no resolution. There was no comprehensive immigration bill passed out of Washington. We don't even have a border security bill that's put forth yet. And we have no way to deal with what the law is right now.
Jessica, you're saying because we don't have a bill, President Obama should arbitrarily take his pen and grant amnesty to 4.5 million. We're talking 68,000 minors. You're talking 4.5 million who he says can come here now with amnesty. That's all right?
No, those are two separate issues. We're talking about the children that are here that are already lost, that are in the system, because we had a bill that was actually passed under George W. Bush, the Wilberforce Children Trafficking Act, that allowed these kids in the first place. And by defunding and not making sure that Homeland Security and that the welfare departments have enough resources to process these children, because we do have a thing called due process in this country, right, we're now in a situation that is untenable, and we have these kids and families that we can't track. We don't know where they are. I mean, it's really a horrible situation, and we've got no movement to solve it or fix it.
Right. There's no movement to solve it or fix it. But Dan, we're talking 68,000 kids. What about all the other apprehensions of other other illegals who aren't necessarily minors, and they may jump their court dates?
Well, look, this is happening nationwide, but it's important to recognize that the president has established policies that say to an illegal alien, if you're here illegally, we're not interested in deporting you. Now, the unaccompanied minors and the groups that showed up as families from Central America, they all got the memo. They understand. They don't have to show up for their hearings. They don't have to worry about ever getting deported. They're just going to wait until Obama enacts another illegal unconstitutional amnesty. Look, Eric, the president has spent, he owns this this domestic policy train wreck, because for the last 6 years he has systematically destroyed, undermined, and sabotaged U.S. immigration controls and limitations.
Right.
These folks coming in now know the system doesn't work.
Where are these kids? Where are these kids who are,
look,
not showing up for the court dates?
Health and Human Services, they resettled a lot of them, put them with foster families. Maybe they're not telling DHS where they are, but look, the president doesn't care where they are, because the president doesn't want them to go anywhere, because he wants to promote illegal immigration. You would have to be nuts not to see the reality of the agenda of this administration, which is to simply undermine and destroy this nation's ability to control immigration. They're giving them driver's licenses, Obamacare. This is going to cost trillions of dollars in the next couple of decades to manage the uncontrolled immigration inflows that this administration has unleashed.
Jessica, what about that? What about all the kids that are finding their ways into our classrooms with the kids who are children of parents who are now working hard, paying their taxes? Now they're being squeezed out by illegal immigrants who probably shouldn't even be here.
I mean, this is a politically, expedient sort of way to go after the president about the immigration policy, but it's also completely disingenuous. We are not having, yes, we have issues with children who are coming to this country and going into schools and they don't speak English, but there's nothing that the president's done that's giving these people Obamacare. That is not happening.
Okay,
I mean, let's be real about this situation. Immigration is an issue.
Disingenuous on whose part?
It is.
On my part for pointing a finger at President Obama?
On what Dan just said, on the points that he just said.
Well, but if actual deportations actually aren't up, deportations under the Obama definition of deportations are up, but the real deportations sending people back are not up. Am I wrong, Dan?
No, deportations are plummeting. In fact, Interior Immigration Control has been dismantled. State and local enforcement has been dismantled. They're giving documents like driver's licenses. The president and his party own this domestic policy train work. It's been 6 years. FAIR has reports that go through week by week from the beginning of this administration on how the Obama folks have destroyed immigration controls and undone all the work that's been done by Congress since 1996. And the reason is they're trying to capitulate to an extreme wing of the party that says they don't want anybody to be deported. And if you take a look at the deportation numbers now, they're plummeting practically to a fraction of what they were even 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know how the country's going to get out of this mess, because no country in the history of the world has survived the complete collapse of border control. And whether it's overstaying a tourist visa, coming across the border illegally, or coming in illegally some other way, the message is out all around the world that you're never going to have to go home.
And guess what, Jess? I'm going to give you the last word here, but guess what? When the president on down says, don't worry, we're going to slap you with this little piece of paper, I hope you show up next year for your court date, what do you think the message is to illegals?
I mean, that's not exactly what's going on here, and the president is not sending that message. We can argue that all we want. The point is, we've been talking about immigration reform in this country since the Reagan administration. We've yet to see anything real happen. I mean, Senator McCain has been working on this the entire time he's been in the Senate. We still have not had any resolution, and we can argue about this back and forth, and you can look at it just in terms of the president's terms in office. But it has been going on for decades, and yet nothing's done, not even a border control bill. I mean, come on. Like, let's get real. Congress needs to do something. We've got these children. They're in distress. They need our help. This is something that as Americans we do. We have due process of law.
Thank you.
Let's do something about it.
Let's do that. All right, Jessica, thank you. Dan, thank you very much. Up next, California.